Trying something a little bit different here today on the show. We are chatting with Roy Coughlan. He is a seasoned serial entrepreneur and having founded 20 companies across 5 countries. And he's also successfully launched 6 podcasts to the top of the echelons of their industry. Roy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for having me on the show.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So I have to imagine that the entrepreneurial piece of your life preceded the podcasting part of your life. So I got to ask, after having some success as an entrepreneur, what made you want to dip your toes into the podcasting world?
It was more about getting a message out. Kind of through my journey of kind of losing everything, I wanted to expose the whole lot. And I thought, podcasting is a good way. So I basically started joining Toastmasters, became very good at public speaking. And that was my first podcast. The speaking podcast to help people become better speakers.
Wow. All right. So what were some of the other podcasts that you've had in your career?
The meditation podcast. So like a lot of times people will say, I don't have time to meditate. And it helped me in my journey when I lost stuff. And I wanted that. It's always free. And you have meditations from 1 minute to 2 hours, but also interviews talking about breathwork, meditations, chakra, yoga, all that kind of stuff. I've got the crypto, which is talking about all things blockchain technology, awakening, exposing fraud and corruption, but with solution, and the Learn Polish podcast, which is kind of like 5 to 10 minutes, helping people to learn the Polish language. I'm like the student, and then there's the teacher that's going through it.
Very cool. So, I mean, these are very different industries, right? These are not, it's not like, I launched an entrepreneurial podcast and then I did 5 more just like it. No, you are hitting up all the different categories over here, different audiences. So what was it that you noticed in your first show that led you to believe that you were good at this, that, convinced you to start launching more shows?
I think it was getting into number 1 in a couple of countries was one of the things. It wasn't something I was expecting. And just the feedback, not everyone will actually write the feedback on, say, Facebook or something like that. But there's when you meet them and they'll say, I'm listening to your shows, like it. And at one stage, I was kind of using a marketing thing, trying to get into different countries. And I'd reach out to friends and say the UK. And then they'd come back and they go, I actually like this. I'm starting to follow it. So just by doing that and knowing that I was making an impact and just listening to feedback when someone thanks you and just realizing, hey, I can make a change in the world. So all of mine are kind of relating to improving the world as such. And the last one was the pod fodder, which is basically trying to keep people in the podcasting world because, we keep away from CNN, BBC and things like that because they're just regurgitating lies. But when you've got the podcasters, they're getting a lot of information out. But unfortunately, a lot of them throw in the towel. And that was my thing. I was sharing tips and tricks to try to keep them in the game.
Okay. So what did you find? I mean, did you do a lot of research prior to launching that first podcast? Were you, obsessing over podcasting hacks and strategies, or did you just kind of throw it out there and see what stuck and used your instincts from being an entrepreneur to, guide the show and help it be successful?
There was a guy who had done a workshop for about 5 hours. So that was my first kind of introduction. And I thought, I can do this. Then I went to it. And it's like for any business I get involved in, I'll read about 10 books. So I read a load of books to basically try to understand everything. And regarding like editing and sound quality, I know you've massive experience in that. I'll never be at that level. But what I did is I brought a guy in, paid him, show me how to edit this, used it on Audacity. And he said, do this. I just logged it down and kind of followed that system for a few years.
So what would you say were some of the things that you were doing that helped you to be successful and then encouraged you to continue to, keep launching shows? And again, very different shows each time. No two really the same.
A lot of people, what they're doing is they spend a lot of time making sure the quality is perfect, which is great. It's great to have great sound because, there's times that if I didn't do a check once, and what happened is it kicked into the camera microphone and the quality was terrible. So after that, I kind of make sure I have a check that I check everything prior to recording an interview. But what most people do, they're getting the sound right, they're getting the studio right, and they do their interviews. One, are they doing their interviews properly, that they're preparing properly for the guest that's coming on? So you'll have a fantastic conversation. So, for example, sometimes people have, whether you're using Podmatch or different systems, there's loads of different. What happens is people will list kind of typical headings and typical questions. But if you're doing that, you're going to have very similar interviews. And you don't want that. You want something unique. So I have my own kind of form, and I try to get something out of that. And when I'm even doing research, I'm looking at their YouTube channel. I'm looking at a load of things. I'm looking at what was popular. So I'm trying to create questions that will create a unique interview, which one allows me to create a very good podcast, but also the guests realize, hey, this is good. I've got hundreds of my guests kind of saying how much they enjoyed the show. Best interview I've had. Like, that's not rare for me. It's like constant. But what that does is that then gets them sharing it as well. So I'll tag them on LinkedIn and all the different platforms, but they're also happy to share. I'll create shorts. And it's like you put a lot of effort into the marketing, whereas some people forget that side. So one, preparation is very important. But two, don't just go next. You have to market, unfortunately, more time doing the marketing. At the start, you're doing it yourself. Then you can get, virtual assistants to do a lot of it. But it's painful. You don't want to be doing that. You like the creative side is actually interviewing people, enjoying what you're doing. But if you want people to find it, you have to go out there and show them where to do it. So there's a few different things you can be doing. Like, for example, Facebook groups. Like sometimes people, they just blast it out there. But say the Polish one. I went to foreigners in Poland, foreigners in Warsaw, Polish in the UK, Polish in Ireland, Chicago, Polish, because they're all places where people would be, usually they'd meet a partner that they're trying to get to learn the language, that when they go home talking to the grandparents or the parents, they'll understand the language. So I was reaching the right group, where some people, they just blast it out there. So it's kind of targeting where you're going to do your marketing.
How did you have time to do all that prep work that you were talking about doing and do all the post-production marketing that you were talking about doing while also, being a serial entrepreneur, right? I know lots of entrepreneurs who don't have enough time to sleep, and yet you seem to have way more time than the rest of us.
I think I like to systemize everything. I'm always looking, how do I make this better? So, for example, one of the things what I did on the forum is what bio will I use? Where's your links and everything? Because what I was finding is I'm going into your website after the interview. I'm trying to find what will I write about, who my guest is, and then what links to do. This was prior to even using Podmatch, where sometimes you'll find the links easy. But I ask them to give me that, as well as the picture. So I have everything in one place. And then when I'm uploading it, I'm uploading the audio, but I do it on Spotify, so that's video as well, but not all platforms have that. But then I'll do the YouTube, I'll do the BitChute, I'll do the Rumble, and I'm doing them all at once. So a lot of times people are kind of doing it, when I get time. So I'm just cutting and pasting, title, show notes, and then posting that. And I kind of do that with everything. I'm constantly trying to go, how can I make that easier for myself? And I know, because I've heard so many people, even with one show, they'll go, I don't have time, and they throw in the towel because of that. And it's a case of set out certain times that you're doing things. So I know, like some people, you can only book them on certain times to do the interview. Whereas there's others, they'll have their calendar open the whole time. I don't do that. My calendar's blocked out for certain times. When I'm with my son, that's blocked out. Nobody can book an interview at that stage. So I kind of respect my own time as well. But at the same time, I systemize everything to make it, I suppose, just production-wise, it goes, everything gets done. And then I started outsourcing, creating the shorts and stuff like that. But the way I do that is I actually edit everything myself. I do it by 2. So even if I'm watching stuff, regarding looking at guest preparation, I can listen to stuff by 2 speed. Even if it's audio, I can go up to 3.5. Spotify allows you 3.5. And I've kind of trained myself that I can listen to a video twice. Unfortunately, when it's just a video, they don't allow you to go past 2.5 times or twice by 2. But if they could, I'm sure I'd be able to comprehend that as well. And it's not that I go from 1 to 2. I kind of build it up, 1 quarter, 1.5. And sometimes within seconds, I can go, yeah, I can understand this. So when I'm editing, I do the exact same. I'm editing it at twice the speed, and that just allows me to get more done in shorter time.
When it comes to your marketing assets, and I know you talked about, going into Facebook groups that are specific to your niche and things like that, but more importantly, when you are consuming your content, thinking about clips, thinking about quotes, right? Thinking about the things that you are going to highlight for the audience in order to attract them to the show, what is it you're thinking about, right? What are the sort of, things you're looking for, targeting, hoping to find, the things that you find are most effective in not just getting people to like it, but actually getting people to convert into someone who will listen and subscribe to a show?
It's like, that's one of the reasons that I actually edit it myself, because it's very hard to outsource that they will pick up on key points. So as I'm going through it, I'm just going, ooh, that's a nice point. Whether it's something that I've responded to, or I ask a question and the answer is just great. So I'm putting timestamps on that, and then I'm sending it to the team. So they're just extracting that, creating the shorts, and they're putting it up. But what happens a lot of time is people, they create the shorts, they put it out there, and that's it. But no, they assume someone's going to go, oh, Matthew, I'm going to search his show, or if you've got the name of the show, they're going to go away and search it. People are lazy. They're not going to do that. So what I do is I have it in the box that I create the shorts with. And say the Polish one, I created like a Polish flag. And then sometimes I'll either have it on the post we're doing, or else in the comments. And you have to just depend on the platform that you're actually posting to, because the algorithms work, so sometimes you can't just put up a video because they don't want to take you away from, say, Facebook to YouTube. So you have to be careful how you do it, but just being conscious of that and watching the way that you're doing it.
It's funny you said that. Whenever I was coaching clients about their podcast marketing efforts and, trying to grow their show, I was like, the one thing you have to realize is that people, and when I say people, I don't mean individually, I just mean as a whole, people are dumb and lazy. And so you have to explicitly state what it is you want them to do, and then make it as easy as humanly possible for them to do it. And so, right, that's kind of like the same thinking, right? If you want people to subscribe to your show, tell them, subscribe to my show, and then put a link somewhere right there where they click on that, and then the next thing they are doing is subscribing. Don't make them click here, do this, right? Because by the time you get to step 5 where they're actually going to subscribe, they're gone, right? They've already given up. They don't need homework. They want, roll out the red carpet and make it as easy as possible for them to do what it is you want them to do.
There's a lot of, like, I've been doing that from the very start, give me a thumbs up, 5-star rating and whatever. But what I've learned is a lot of people don't know how to give a rating. And I created a video on that. Like, now it's a bit, I think people kind of embrace podcasting a bit more. But it's like with Spotify, you can't write a comment, but just showing them, hit the 3 dots. And then, so make sure now for Matthew that you go in, hit the 3 dots and give the 5-star rating, because it helps with the algorithms. It helps with everything. So then they start showing it to more people. And the same with, Apple, how to do it, give the rating, give a nice title, and like with the website I have on the website that they can do it. So just make it easy for them. As you say, you have to make it easy. They're not going to go out of their way if it's going to cause them work. If they can just hit a button and then write something nice, they'll do it. So allow them to have that flexibility.
Yeah, no, and I would say, for those of us in the podcasting industry who have been trying to educate and, get people more involved, we appreciate you putting those explainer videos out there. I'm sure you've helped a lot of folks and saved us the trouble. But, even as Roy was saying, more people are understanding it and doing it. Still, if you're one of those folks who really wants to encourage reviews, let's say, I love what you're saying. Make a video, show them how to do it. Do a screen share from your phone, record one on your computer, list the step-by-step and say, oh, you want to do a review? Here is how to do it so that they can't mess it up. And make sure you update it, right? Because the systems change every few years, right? I don't want to see you opening up iTunes desktop to leave a review on a podcast when podcasts are no longer listed on iTunes, right? So make sure that you are, keeping those kind of resources up to date as well for your audience. Is there something you do when you are getting ready to launch a new show that you think helps with its trajectory, with its ability to be successful?
There is, and usually I don't share that, but I will.
Ooh.
Because
folks.
everybody's got their own secret sauce, and it's I did this with a first few, and then I took a course because I'm constantly still reading books and just trying to improve because you'll pick up on stuff. And I did a London Reels course, and it was about 3 or 4 grand, the price of this. But I met a lot of fellow podcasters, so there was an advantage to that. And I used their launch for the Awakening one, and it's the first one that didn't get into the top of the charts at the start. And, so sometimes we'll think, oh, they know better, but just kind of try to look at what they're doing. And, it's different when they've got millions of views and later on you just assume, oh, this is a massive show. They're bound to know what they're doing. I tell people, have at least 10 shows ready anyway, because you'll think I'll create a show every week and I put it out. I think you need to have at least 3 going out fast. Maybe the next day, and maybe not 3 into one go, but one day, next day. That you have 3. And then if you're planning on doing one a week, then do one a week after that. Because what happens is, if Matt puts out his podcast and people like it, they're not going to subscribe because they just see one. They think, is this a one-hit wonder? And they're gone. Whereas if they see a few, they'll come in and they'll start actually listening and going, oh, I'll start subscribing to that. So I think that's one of the advantages. And then you get into platforms where where you're in the charts and sharing. It's constantly about sharing where you are, bragging as such. But because so many clients that I have, they feel like, oh, I shouldn't do this. They feel like it's bad. But what happens is, if I'm putting out, oh, I'm number 1 in New Zealand or whatever, people are curious. And plus you put the flag, and then you don't know, some of the people that you're connected with might be from New Zealand or know somebody from New Zealand. And the curiosity will come in. And every time you're getting in the charts or you're somewhere new, put it out there. And if, sometimes you could be in the top 10. Someone does a blog post and actually recommends your show. Put it out there. And I just constantly doing things like that. And I think that helps. And just ask, as I said about the reviews, I remember I was selling properties at one stage and we were coming back from the deal, 2 guys, and we're going to collect their cars, and they asked me what was I doing. And I said, I knew the podcast. I made them both open their phones and give me a 5-star rating there and then. And it's like, most people are shy and ashamed of doing that. But by doing that, it's actually showing more people, and get as many reviews as you can. There's people, they have family members in the house that don't even listen to it. At least get them to give you a review. Even if they're not writing something, even the 5-star. It'll all help, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is get the popularity that it gets in front of the right people that will actually be true fans and start listening to you. And then they'll come back, and then your numbers will just go up.
Lovely. We've been chatting with Roy Coughlan. He is a serial entrepreneur and host of several podcasts. You can find more info on what he's doing, especially in terms of podcasting, at Roy Coughlan. It's RoyCoughlan.com. And of course, we'll have a link here in the show notes so you can easily find that. Roy, before we let you go, there's 3 questions that we always like to ask all of our guests who come on the show. First one is there something in the podcasting space, whether it's on the production side, distribution, listening, whatever it is there something you would like to see improved in podcasting overall?
I suppose that they put time into their marketing, because we've touched on it, but I don't want people leaving the space. And especially when you actually start listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's nothing worse than enjoying a podcast and then they throw in the towel and it's gone. And yeah, you can listen to it, but so I think, what you're doing, you're sharing tips and tricks. That's making it easier for people. And I think the more people that do that, let's keep them in the space. So that's one thing that I'd like to do, that I'd like to see, because I've seen so many people drop out. You look at the statistics, it's saying of the 3.3 million, you get different numbers, but they're saying 90% is gone. And that's a shame to see. So let's try to keep them in there.
All right. I love it. Is there any technology on your wish list, whether it's equipment or maybe a piece of software that either you haven't purchased yet or hasn't been created, that you would want to, incorporate into your podcasting?
I was actually talking to somebody today who's doing avatars, and the one thing that annoys me, and this probably happens to you, is you'll get bombarded with messages, and it's usually people going, I can promote your podcast, I can give you 10 million. You might find the odd one that might actually do something for you, but they're all scammers. They're all taking your money. They're all pretending they can get you this, that, and the other thing. And unfortunately, like, because you actually get genuine people writing to you as well, because they really love what you do. I mean, when you look at it, like Spotify gives the list at the end of the year, and to see, a couple of hundred people that you're their number one podcast, that's beautiful to see. It's like you're going, wow, there's so many podcasts out there, and I'm their number one. And then they shows you top 5 and top 10. But just, seeing that is actually beautiful to have.
All right. Yeah.
So, and I know I went on a tangent. There's nothing really, because I've evolved. So the lighting, I done acoustics at one stage. Now I have got I don't know what you call it, the acoustic thing that surrounds the mic. There's nothing that I go, I need to get this, because I just go and get it. But I try to keep it simple. I mean, I look at all the different mics. I have the Audio Technics mic that just goes USB, because I'm not a technical person. And I've had a few people that I'd interview, and they have all the mixers and everything. And once it goes wrong, it's no problem to you. You totally understand that. But most people don't. And when it goes wrong, they can't, we'll have to reschedule it. So I never had a problem. I have a spare one there. I never need to use it. This is going 7 years, and it still works grand.
Amazing. Love it. And lastly, are there any podcasts that you are listening to that are, absolute favorites, the kind of podcast that either, a new episode comes out and you're going to stop whatever it is you're listening to go check it out, or, you're not going to let a new episode just kind of go, without checking it out? Are there any podcasts, a few that come to mind like that?
I suppose there's 3 that I like. Patrick Bet David, I listen to all his episodes. I just love what they're doing and kind of understanding what's going on in the world, as well as kind of seeing that he's trying to make life better for humanity. So it's good to see that. Regarding a Blind Boy podcast, this is a guy that it's just audio. He wears a plastic bag on his head, so he doesn't want nobody knowing what he's doing. And he just does a hot take, and he's funny. It's just very enjoyable. Every week I listen to him. And there's another one, Live, Love, Laugh. So that's Lad Baby. And basically, most people wouldn't have heard of them. They've had 5 number ones. So they've topped the amount of people that got number ones for Christmas in the UK. They've had best-selling books. The 2 of them are autistic, and they kind of do like funny videos. But their podcast is very good. They paused it now for the Christmas one, so it should be starting again. Season 3 should be starting. But it's one of these ones that you're just listening, having a laugh and enjoying it. The same with Blind Boy, whereas Patrick Bet Dave is one that you're learning what's going on in the world.
Love it. All right. We'll try to have links to all those in the show notes as well. And once again, we've been chatting with Roy Coughlan. You can learn more about him at roycoughlan.com. Again, ROYCOUGHLAN.com. Roy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Thoroughly enjoyed it.